Man, it's crazy. We're already a quarter of the way through 2021, and there's been so many albums that came out. Welcome to the Bar for Bar podcast, and this week I'm going to talk about my favorite albums of the year so far. So, first things first, if you are new to this channel, or if you haven't really caught on yet, I tend to only review albums that I enjoy, like a decent amount. So, I guess that's a spoiler for the albums that are going to be talked about here, but there are also a lot of other albums that I listen to and either don't get around to reviewing, or they're too dense for me to feel comfortable reviewing in like a 10 to 15 minute video, but also don't want to make you guys sit through an hour of me talking about an album. But also, if you are interested in that, let me know, because I'm totally down to just talk about some of these albums forever. So starting at the top of the year, Rap Ferreira, Bob's son. That album was hella good. Now, I started to write a review on that, and this is actually one of those albums that I felt there's enough to say that if I limited myself to my typical review time length, it won't do it justice. There's just too much to say. Because Rap Ferreira is one of those guys that's just, they say a lot of things, and, there's a lot to it. In fact, like, I started writing the review, and I'm like, God damn, this is going to be one of those really long reviews. Like, on just on the first actual song, I wrote a paragraph that's, like, longer than most of my intro. Like, yeah, no, it's just really long. But anyway, like, that's when I'm like, okay, no, I don't know what to do with that. But the album is really good. All of that to say that. It was meant to be like a tribute to Bob Kaufman, who was a beat poet who lived between 1925 and 1986. And I believe he was mostly based in San Francisco. So that's really dope to be around that. But yeah, the album was really good. I forgot what they call it. I think someone called it like bedroom rap or something, because it's super, like, it's kind of lo-fi, you could say. I mean, lo-fi is just a weird ass term that no one really knows what it means anymore, but it has that sort of feel. But it's something that you can just kind of throw on and just have playing in the background. It's like, I think another term that people used for it was like coffee shop rap, because that's really appropriate for it. Like, there's not a whole lot of, it's not aggressive, I guess you could say. It's just really chill. So, a dope album, very jazzy, I guess you could say. But again, one of those albums that you can't really just summarize very easily. At least I don't feel comfortable doing that, because it's very dense, for sure. I think, well, here, we'll just run through my first paragraph. This then goes into Cough Bomber's return. The track starts off with an introduction to Rap Ferreira being the last Cough Bomber, and everyone being extremely happy about it. It's reminiscent of the aliens from Toy Story when the claw would come down to take them away. The first verse has Ferreira touching on society and things that we just take as normal almost. There's a decent amount of lead up to this comment with him talking about the things that black represents and what it can mean to different people. I'm just going to leave it at that, because there was a whole lot that I referenced prior, so I'm not going to bore you guys with that. But let me know if you want a long form review of it. Moving on, that week, also, Troy LLF dropped Free Play 4, which was a dope album. It is now on streaming, so if you haven't checked it out, do so. I enjoyed it. It was a really dope album. I got a chance to talk to Troy about the album, and it was awesome. Like, last year, he was just busy. I think he put out like 5 albums, which is just awesome. Like, so much work. Yes. Then later on in January, we had Nick Cautions with Anywhere But Here. And I think in my review I said this is the first great album of 2021, and that's true. Although I haven't really returned to it since then. It was a good album though. I don't know why I haven't returned to it though. Maybe it's just like thinking back on it now, maybe the sequencing wasn't as solid. So listening to it as an album might not have like really clicked for me. It was good. I enjoyed a lot of songs off of it, and I actually had a lot of trouble like choosing my favorite songs off the album when I did the review. But it was, I don't know. I probably need to go back and listen to it again and really get an idea for like where it stands now, because it's been about 3 months almost since it came out. So oh yeah, then the following week, Coda the Friend, Lyrics to Go Volume 2. I mentioned this on my last Coda review with Static Selecta. I like Coda, but I also don't like Coda. And that's putting it very simply. So, Coda to me, like, he's a dope rapper. He's got a lot of skill. He makes great songs. The only hang up for me is that he's too positive. If that can be considered an issue. Like, I don't know. Like, he's got bars. He's a good rapper, but I don't know, something about his positivity just doesn't really click with me. But maybe that's just because I'm not at that point in my life yet. So it's a dope album. I think I only gave it like 1 or 2 listens because I knew I wasn't going to really review it. But it was a good album. I'm sure, I mean, if you're a fan of Coda, you know that it's going to be good. So, yeah. But the other one that I really, again, like similar to the Rap Forever album, 13, A Magnificent Day for an Exorcism. This was an album that I was really excited for, and I really wanted to do a review for it. So 13 is comprised of Pharoahe Monch, Dario Jones, and I believe Marcus Machado. Because again, this was one of those that I started writing a review for, and I got pretty far actually. Yeah, Marcus Machado. So this album, the main reason I was really excited for it was because Pharoahe Monch had been teasing this idea of 13 forever. Like, I feel like it's been at least 10 years where he's been talking about 13. And, I was like, what is he going to do with it? Eventually we got this album, and it's a very good album. I wish it had come out a little bit sooner though, because a lot of the subject matter here is very it's very rooted in the issues that we had in 2020. So like all of the excess in police brutality, all the issues we had with our previous president, and just the treatment of black people. Like that album touched on all of that, and it did so really well. Excuse me. Now, I enjoyed it a lot, but this is also one of those albums that's just very intricate and very deep. Pharoahe Monch isn't a dude that you can just be like, yeah, I know exactly what he's saying right away. And like, for me, like, again, I wanted to review this album, but I felt like I wouldn't do it justice by doing a shorter review. I did get a bit further in writing this one. I think 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah, I got like 5 songs into the review, and then I realized that those 5 songs was already longer than every review I would typically do. So I stepped back from that, and I was like, yeah, I'm gonna just hold off on it. And here we are, 2.5 months later, and I still haven't done a review for it. But again, if you want me to do a proper review for it, like long form, let me know, because it's a good album. You should really listen to it. But okay, another thing to keep in mind with it is that, well, if you know Pharoah Monch, you know that he's got a bit of rock influence every once in a while. Not even every once in a while, it's pretty often now that I think about it. But this album, it is very much that. It is a rap rock album for sure. And that's not for everyone. I know I used to listen to that sort of sound way more, but as I've gotten older, I've shifted away from it a little bit. But it's still a very enjoyable listen. So, one thing to keep in mind. But also, it's like, almost all y'all got streaming, so it doesn't hurt. Just go listen to it. That week we also had Doc D with Planetary Destruction. I only wanted to bring that up because I haven't listened to it since. That's all. Like, that wasn't a bad album, but because it wasn't promoted in a way that I would have liked it to, like, that also made me not want to really listen to it. But what it really wanted to make me do was go listen to Doom rather than Logic. So, moving on, because now we're still in January. Jesus Christ. Kells is dead. Ian Kelly. Ian Kelly is such an amazing dude. I love him. Like, that album is so good. I was actually, when I was thinking about this podcast, I was like, damn, was there any albums that really could be a contender for album of the year? And then I remembered Kells is Dead. It's so good. Like, so Ian Kelly, if you don't know him, he is from Oakland. He is signed to Jamla Records, Ninth Wonders label. And this entire album, I believe, is mostly produced by Eric G. Some tracks by Ninth Wonder. And I think that's it. I'm not sure if Crisis had any production on it. I think he did. But the production is dope. And, I mean, if you're getting an album from Jamla, you kind of know it's going to be good. Like, there's a standard there. And it's so good. It's so good. That's one of the few albums from this year so far that I just kind of keep throwing on. Like, it's constantly in my recently played. It's that good. Like, because it just, when you have an album like this, you can just throw it on anywhere and have it on as background music, but it's also really dope when you actually listen to it. Like, the album starts off with a Nina Simone sample for, I forgot the actual track name, for Misunderstood. Yeah, okay. But it's like, it comes in so hard, and it's but also using that sample is just cheating for me because I love that sample. It's so good. But no, that is a dope album. If you haven't checked it out, I don't know what to tell you. You fucked up. If you hadn't listened to that album, you fucked up. I could also just be hyping it up a lot because I really do enjoy that album. Let's see. Oh yeah, I guess that did come out. So now we're in February, but we had another collab project from Big Ghost and Conway the Machine. It was only available on Bandcamp for the first week, I believe, and then after that it was on Spotify and streaming. It's a dope album. Yeah, I don't really have much to say because I didn't listen to it too much, but I think I enjoyed the one prior a little bit more, except for like the last track. I probably should have pulled up the track list for this one, but the last track on it, Conway Conway does this thing where you don't expect him to be super introspective and emotional, and then he does it, and you're just there crying. Like, it happens with Conway's music so much more than I would have expected. Like, you don't, you listen to what's popular from Conway, and you don't really get that idea from him. Like, you don't get that vibe. You're not like, oh yes, this is a very emotional, very introspective man. Like, no, you don't feel that way when you listen to his more popular songs. But he does that really well. It's a short project though. I think it's like 15 minutes, so check it out. But again, I didn't do a review for it, so that kind of shows where I stand on it. Like, it was okay, but I didn't love it. That was a weird week. Oh man, because so the way I'm doing it, or pulling up these albums, is through my weekly notes. So like where I mention what albums came out. There's so many albums that I just didn't listen to, like General Steel and ESK, America's Nightmare 3. Like, that's probably a dope album too. I just didn't listen to it. Oh yeah, that was a good week too. So, moving on again. Now we're mid February. First one we had was Judas and the Black Messiah, like the Inspired album. This was dope. The main reason I didn't do a review for this is because I didn't know how to review it. If that makes sense. So what I mean by that is there's soundtracks, and then there's albums that are inspired by a movie. This one is kind of a mix of both, because when you watch the movie, you do hear some of the songs, I think, or at least one of the songs. It's been so long, I don't remember, but the movie was amazing, by the way. It's with soundtracks and albums that are inspired by movies, it's really hard to review because they're going in a different direction. They don't necessarily need to follow some sort of album sequencing or the movie sequencing. They could just be kind of thrown in there. And because they aren't always, like, they don't always include songs that are included in the movie, it gets a little weird. So with this one, I want to say the only one that was, like, the only song that was on there was the one with Rhapsody and JID. Actually, let me pull it up real quick. Sorry for the clicking. There we go. Thank God I didn't have to do too much. I think the only one that was really on there was Something Ain't Right. That was the Masego, JID, and Rhapsody track. Oh, I dropped something. And it was good. Like, I liked a lot of the songs off of this, but again, it was a very, like, just kind of thrown together sort of thing for me. Like, there were dope songs, but there wasn't like a flow to it. It didn't feel like an album. It really just felt like a collection of songs. So, main reason I didn't review it, but also because with this sort of thing, because I listened to it right as the movie came out, I guess it was a little bit different. But typically with soundtracks, I try to listen to it prior and see where in the movie it would fit, or I'll listen to it afterwards, I guess. But at least in recent times, I'll listen to it prior and get an idea of where in the movie it would fit, because movies are pretty predictable most of the time, so you kind of have an idea of what's going to happen. And especially with the music, you can kind of be like, yes, during this particular, like, if this sort of scene comes around, like, this is going to be what's playing. Makes sense, at least to me. I'm also one of those weirdos that tries to put songs to events and music or movies, because that's what I did in high school for a little bit. Not really, but I thought about it a lot. So yeah, it was a good, I don't want to call it an album. Like, it was good. It was an enjoyable collection of songs. Let's say that. But main reason I didn't review it, didn't feel like a proper album to me. Yeah. It really just felt like it was going to be reviews of individual songs for 15 minutes. Also that week we got Slowthai's Tyron, and that was a beautiful album. That one is likely going to be on my top 10 list by the end of the year too. It was really good. I check my review of it if you want a better explanation of how I feel, but it was good. Like, because Slowthai, when you think of Slowthai, if you've heard of him on not samples, on features and stuff like that, he tends to be more aggressive, right? But on this album, I mean, well, yeah, we do get that for the first half, but the second half is more of him just chilling out, and, well, not chilling out, being more reflective and kind of somber at times. So it's a very good album. And that was something that I was concerned about when it came out too, like if it would work by having that high energy and that slower energy, I guess you could say. But it worked out really well. We also had Marlon Craft, How We Intended. That was a really good album as well. I'm just a fan of Marlon Craft because he's one of those guys that like knows what he's talking about. That's what it just feels like. And he has enough charisma to be like just confident in what he says. Even though on some of some of his music, you can see like he's being very vulnerable, and there are times where he may seem like he's not confident. So, like, you know, it's a good mix, I feel. Definitely check out that album. It was good. I liked it. I mean, I reviewed it, so. Let's see what else we got. I also just realized that this is probably going to be longer than half an hour now that I'm only in February. But let's do this. Next week we had Sylvan LaQ, Young Sylvan EP1. It was dope. I didn't do a review for this because I didn't have enough to say about it. Like, it was good. That's all. Like, I liked it, and I go back to a lot of the songs off of it. That's what I'm probably gonna do, because this is his not EP1, it's like episode 1 supposedly, and it's meant to be a trilogy. So what I'm gonna probably do is do a review when all 3 episodes are out. So be on the lookout for that. It was dope though. I enjoyed it. Jim Jones and Harry Fraud, The Fraud Department. That was a really good album too, which I probably should go back and listen to more. Yeah, that's all I gotta say. It was solid. I think I only gave it 1 listen though, but I was pleasantly surprised with it. And speaking of Pleasantly Plump 2, Champ Green and DJ 12s. I liked it. It was fun. It was a really fun album. Don't know why I didn't review it though. It was dope though. I liked it. There's also another album that I should have listened to from Your Old Droog and the God Fahim, the YOD Fahim. But, you know, I need to listen to that. I know. Mavi, End of the Earth. Yes. Check out my review. I really enjoyed it. This was my first time really listening to him. And it was dope. He's a smart man. But also, like, it wasn't so intricate that I couldn't wrap my head around it. Like, I really enjoyed it. I feel like if you were to put out an album soon, I would have a hard time doing a review for it because it'd probably be too in-depth. But we'll have to wait and see. Then the week after, so now we're in March actually, so maybe I will finish this within half an hour, who knows. In March, Denzel Curry and Kenny Beats dropped Unlocked 1.5, basically just a remix album to their Unlocked project that dropped last year. And I mean, I haven't really listened to a remix project in a minute, but it was pretty solid. I mean, I'm not mad at it. I enjoyed the remixes to the beats, and the extra features we got were nice too. I mean, I really have nothing bad to say about it. The main reason I didn't review it is because most of the album is the same. So, it didn't really feel like the stuff that I talk about in reviews, like the lyric aspect, is basically the same, because I don't think Denzel Curry had any new verses on it. The beats obviously were different because you got featured producers like The Alchemist and Robert Glasper. But, I just didn't want to review it because it felt like an old album now. Oh yeah, and speaking of another album that I didn't review, Tech of Smith & Wesson dropped Priceless. I didn't listen to that either, but I need to. So, be on the lookout for me listening to that. Ooh, yeah. So now we're on March 12th. Chica, Once Upon a Time. So this EP was good. This was my first time really listening to Chica, and my only complaint, well, not really complaint, the reason I didn't review this is because there was a few complaints about it. So the album really felt all over the place, or EP, I mean, which, to be fair, it is an EP. You can kind of do whatever you want. There's no rules there's no rules for anything really, but like there's no structure that's kind of decided on for an EP. Like oftentimes an EP is really just a collection of songs that you wanted to put out. But to me, it felt like she was catering to a too wide of an audience rather than like really honing in, which again isn't really a complaint, but to me it felt so disconnected each song. I really did enjoy Cinderella Part 1 and Part 2. Like that was that was just a good storytelling song. So that was good. But after listening to this and then going back and listening to her previous EP, I think the previous one was a little bit better. I do think though, if she were to release an album, it would be way more focused, first of all, but also it would just have more content. It felt like that's kind of what I felt like was lacking from some of the songs to me. If you liked it, again, you can like it. But this is just how I felt. Oh boy. Oh man. Right, I forgot. March 19th and March 26th, there was just everyone wanted to release something. So now we're pretty much to today, but March 19th. Remember how I said that was a dumb busy week for music? Yeah. I did a shit ton of reviews that following week. I'm tired. But we had Guapdad 4000 and Illmind 1176. It was a dope album. I was telling my friend, I enjoyed this album as an album because, there was a progression from the beginning to the end. There was, I guess, a storyline, you could say. But I think I enjoyed more songs off of Dior Deposits. Although Dior Deposits was more of that album where there was, again, sequencing, but it was more, I felt single-based. But, again, that's just me. I preferred that sound more than 1176, but that is not to say 1176 was bad. I did really enjoy a lot of the songs off of that as well, hence my review of it. Like, if I didn't like it to a certain extent, I would not have reviewed it. I feel like I have to mention that often. Also that week, Joyce Wright, Overgrown. I didn't review it, but it's as good. My coffee's getting cold. I'm sorry. I have to finish this. Yeah, no, Joyce Rice. Joyce Wright. Joyce Rice? It's Joyce Rice. Why did I write Joyce Wright? What the hell is wrong with me? Now I gotta go double check because might just be illiterate. I know I just listened to it recently. There it is. Joyce Rice. Okay. So autocorrect decided to mess me up there. But her Overgrown project, it was really good. It was really good. I think the main reason I didn't review it is because it didn't really fit in like what I normally review. It was way more, well, it is an R&B album more so. And that's not really what I review on this channel because I don't know what I'm talking about with R&B. Or all I can really say is like, yeah, I liked it. It was fun. No, but that song that she did with Freddie Gibbs on one is constantly in my head. So just that alone is enough for me to say it's a good album, honestly. But yeah, no, it was good. It was good. Definitely check that one out. Code of the Friend and Statik Selektah, To Kill a Sunrise. I mentioned this earlier. It was dope. Again, I did a review for it, so I liked it. It did have the same sort of issues that I do with most of Coda's music, where it was a little bit more positive, but what he brought this time was a bit more of a braggadociousness that I don't really hear too frequently from him, and the fact that we got it on multiple tracks was good. For me, I feel like the sequencing was fine. Like, it sounded good throughout, but the subject matter shifted very quickly, and then it stayed where it was. And what I mean by that is the first couple songs were more aggressive, you could say, and more braggadocious. And then it shifted almost immediately to him being positive, or like talking about negative things and like looking at the positive side of it, which it is a Coda thing. Like, I get it, but to me, I feel I would have liked him to stay on that more aggressive, braggadocious sound, because he did it really well, and I wanted more. Like, it is what it is, though. Yes. Benny the Butcher and Harry Fraud, The Plugs I Met Too. I haven't returned to it since I reviewed it. Yeah. Personally, I feel like if he had named it literally anything else, I would have probably enjoyed it more. But because The Plugs I Met, the original one, was one of my favorite projects from when it released, I had high hopes. This one just didn't meet that bar, and it is what it is. But it was okay. It wasn't as good as actually most of what he put out recently, but it was solid. Like, that's kind of what I feel Griselda does a lot of times. Like, they don't necessarily, they put out a consistent amount of music and a consistent level of music. Every once in a while, we'll see them just outdo themselves. And that makes sense because that's going to be on projects and albums where they really want to show off. But with this, it felt like just kind of almost like a throwaway. Like, in the early Griselda days, like, and I mean early in the sense like 4 years ago, where they would have like a mixtape every other week. Like, that's kind of what it felt like. They're just like, it was that sort of energy. It felt almost phoned in at points, but it's fine. It's fine. I think it was still a little bit better than some of those phoned in projects, but I don't think it's going to make my lists this year. Also that week, Pink Siifu and Fly Anakin, Smoke Break. I enjoyed this. I only listened to it like once though. I don't know why, but I only listened to it once. So there's that. It was a good album though. At least from what I listened to. Oh man, now we're pretty much caught up. So last week, last week. There's albums that I didn't review last week because, well, I mean, it's not last week, but like, you know what I mean, like the week prior, and yeah, the 26th, the week of the 26th. So I didn't review any albums last week because I was tired. I just wanted to take a break. But there was a few other reasons. Main reason was the album that I wanted to review, the Arm & Hammer and Alchemist project, Haram, kind of followed the same thing as the Rap Ferreira and 13 album. It was too in-depth for me to feel comfortable just putting out a short review for it. Now, again, if reviewers are doing that, that's totally fine, because, you know what you're doing. I'm not going to be like, oh no, you should go track by track and fully break down everything. That's not everyone's cup of tea. Like, if you go and listen to reviews from like Fantano, he doesn't do that. He does it completely different than I do. He goes kind of into it as a whole project. And then with Dead End Hip Hop, it's same sort of deal. Like, and that's different because there's multiple people. But what I was thinking of doing is doing a review kind of like, what's his name? I think Peter Sky. So he did a review for it where he essentially just sat down for 45 minutes and just talked about the album. That's one option for me. And then Madam, what's her name? She does a bunch of underground reviews too. Let's see. Madam Money Says, what's her YouTube channel? Salt in the Game. She did a longer form review as well, so I could do something like that as well, but I really have to decide if it's something I want to do. But it was a good album. I say all that to say it was a good album. It's just, again, it was so dense. So dense. Like, I just didn't know how to even approach it. Like I said, I could go super broad with it, but that's not my style. Like, if you've watched my reviews, I try to go track for track and like do a decent analysis of it, like in depth enough. Like, that's what I mean. Like, not decent in the sense like, oh, I'm doing a good job. I'm not saying that, because I hate what I do sometimes. Like, I'm very much my own critic. But what I mean is, I want to do like a proper analysis of it. I want to do almost like a breakdown for it. You know, like, that's kind of what I want to do for that sort of album. And I don't feel like my review style would fit for a shorter review. So that's where we're at. I don't know. I might hit up the Hip Hop Babies and do a review with them, because they seem to enjoy it as well. Also that week, Vic Mensa's Eye Tape. I liked it, but I also didn't really like it. I think it was because there was a lot of beat switches, and the beat switches lasted a little bit too long, or like they were at weird times. I don't know, something about it, it just didn't click with me too well. But it was solid. I mean, we'll see where he goes with the C tape, but that's to come, I guess. And then the other album that I didn't review was Collaborate's Light on My Skin. That's supposedly really good, so I need to go. I didn't even listen to it yet, so I need to check that out. Man, but I think that caught us up. I'm not going to talk about the albums that released last week, because why? I'm going to review some of them, so I don't want to talk about them yet. Anyways, that is a very, I guess, I don't even know what this is anymore. This is me just talking about albums that came out now. To summarize, the albums I enjoyed: Ian Kelly, Kells is Dead, Slow Tie, Tyron. Those are the only two that I really remember off the top of my head that are really dope. Other than that, I mean, Yeah, that's really all I got. Because the other albums are good. I mean, Nick Caution's album was really good. Bob's Son was really good. 13 was really good. But as far as the ones that I return to most frequently, Kells is Dead and Tyron. Like, those are some of the best albums this year so far. Let me know what you guys think. Drop a comment below and let me know what your favorite albums this year so far are and why my opinions are wrong, because I'm sure someone will say something like that. Anyways, also remember to like and subscribe if you want to see more content and me just rambling like this. Thank you for watching or listening, whatever you're doing with this, and please stay safe out there.